Rock and roll. All right, Idris and Prash, take it away, guys.
Woo. Hello, everybody. My name is Idris. I'm the founder, executive director at KINFOK.
And I'm Precious Thapan, or Prash. I'm the technical director at the KINFOK app and the director of Pariah Interactive, a game dev studio in Brooklyn.
And so today, we're going to talk a little bit about how KINFOK came to be, how it's existing out in the world, a recent site-specific installation we did at the MoMA of Museum of Modern Art in New York, which is up until July. The challenges we had of activating that in site-specific ways, and then how VPS is going to help us improve and reach a lot of folks. So that's where we're going to go. So KINFOK, we're a tech nonprofit. So we're already in a really different ballgame, but we've been around since 2017. I'm an artist, educator, creative technologist. I was working at Google at an education program called CodeNext, which taught kids how to do computer science, specifically Black and brown children. But while I was there, New York City was deciding what to do with its monuments. There's Columbus Circle Monument in specific. Mayor de Blasio was saying, oh, do we get rid of it, or do we make it a landmark? And so there's many sides to this debate. Our specific stance is that we would want to potentially remove it and then also place a monument that represents Black communities in New York, which didn't end up happening. But what we would do is we would do protests, demonstrations at Columbus Circle. We'd bring community leaders there to speak, but then the other part was that we'd create augmented reality installations that people could experience on their phone that showcase the true story of Christopher Columbus, as well as other heroes from Black and brown history that we wanted to highlight, like Toussaint Louverture right here, the leader of the Haitian Revolution. And so that's sort of, from 2017, we were really doing experiments, like public experiments like that. And I think it was a very specific instance, but that is not singular. That's experienced across the country. And I think for years, but in 2020 more specifically, I'm sure you all felt the racial reckoning that was happening in terms of people trying to gauge with how can we create more representation, more equality amongst our public consciousness, amongst our public spaces, amongst our curriculum. And really the active fight is currently existing, especially if you look in Florida, Texas, and other southern states, to suppress the education of Black and brown and queer communities. And so we were like, how can we use technology and art to make an impact and spread and close that divide? Because the true story of American history sort of isn't fully in picture. So if we just take a quick look at the monuments across the country, there's specifically around 48,178 monuments. That's a lot of monuments. And the monuments in this country really represent like the ideals, we're supposed to represent the ideals, the values and of America. And the issue is that out of 48,178 monuments, there's about 240 that represent people of color. That's like 0.5%. And that's an issue. And we need to fix it. But in order to build 48,000 monuments, I mean, like, damn, that's a lot. It's not going to happen in any amount of time that's close to now. And it costs upwards of $1 million to build these monuments. So what do? Do we just wait for that to happen? No, I think technology really provides us the ability to do that on our own, not have to go through governments, cultural institutions to build these experiences. We can do it ourselves. And so that's what we did. And so we really think that KINFOK exists to really recenter the lived histories of marginalized folks in shared space, which is really important. Technology bringing communities together in real life, as that bridge, as that connector. And the inhabited web of extended reality technologies it plays that part. So we believe that by surfacing and sharing these histories as wide as possible, we can really empower us and our communities to reshape the world. And so why that's really important is because on top of monuments, I mean, due to gentrification and shifting just landscapes, there's sites of histories and importance that are across the country that are just being erased and being built on top of. One example is Seneca Village here, which is a free Black community that existed in New York in the 1800s, but unfortunately, in order to build Central Park, the penultimate idea of public space, they destroyed Seneca Village and destroyed the lives of Black folks who were living there. But now if you walk around in Central Park at that specific site, there's a small plaque that's like, Seneca Village was here. And still, it's been up there for a while, but nothing is really done to honor those histories. So we've created an AR installation that can really truly honor that history. We've created portals that allow people to explore what that community could have looked like. And that's one example. And how do we do that is we work with these communities specifically. We work with local artists, usually not digital artists. We have a 3D artist team led by our co-founder Micah. We have a 3D development team. We're working in tandem with community members, activists, educators, historians, to really figure out how we can honor that history in the best way possible and uplifting their voice at the forefront. And then we do activate things on walking tours, walking tours in classrooms, in learning environments, and that's really how it's being used. And so more specifically, most recently, we were at an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York called Architecture Now, New York New Publics. It was focusing on arts organizations that are changing the landscape of the future of public spaces. And so what we did is we created these three AR monuments, Seneca Village, David Ruggles, the Young Lords, who are all New York City-based histories, and we brought them to life in the space. And what we did also is we found 300-year-old trees, cut them out into slabs, they were dying, and brought them into the space and had the AR actually recognize the tree stumps. The curves in the trees make really good image markers. And then we were able to activate there and leave them there in persistence. And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit right now.
Yeah, so, the exhibition looks great now and works perfectly. But, before we actually got there, there was a lot of this, sitting at MoMA, coding, figuring things out. And a lot of this is me and my team, the dev team. We're actually just making builds in real time and testing things out. So I'm going to talk about a few of the challenges of site-specific AR and follow it up with how we think Lightship ARDK can help us overcome those challenges. So the three main challenges we faced were calibration, making the experience quick to set up, precision, making sure that these monuments spawn exactly where we want them to, and finally, stability. In an indoor installation with light pouring through the windows, with an exhibition that's going to last from spring to fall, we're going to see a lot of lighting changes, a lot of weather changes. So with that change in color and just lighting in the space, how can we keep these monuments from drifting or just disappearing completely? So we'll start with calibration. So this is a shot of the install while we're installing. So you can see these three pedestals, and imagine, if you will, a MoMA personnel walking around with an iPad, scanning these pedestals one by one, and as they scan the pedestal, the monument appears. And this took a lot of iteration, a lot of R&D to get, but we wrote like a proprietary cloud computing-based solution for it, and it worked, but it took a long, long time. And we think with Lightship, we can accelerate that iteration process and get there much faster for site-specific installs in the future. So yeah, this is a shot of somebody scanning the pedestal, and then the monument shows up in the iPad. And this is the final shot of what you see from this specific iPad, where David Ruggles is standing at the pedestal at the end, and you can also see a glimpse of Young Lords on this pedestal right there. So to get there, this is what the MoMA personnel would see, this kind of calibration screen that we built. And in the best case scenario, you see that your scan was successful. We still, in this phase of development, we didn't have the precision down, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, best case scan successful, but worst case, our cloud compute solution, because of Wi-Fi and all these other issues, sometimes it just wouldn't process. And we had this error message pop up for the personnel to be able to try again. The second challenge is precision, making sure that the monument can, instantiate at the exact position we want it to on the wooden texture. So at the very beginning, it was looking like that. And you can see that, the monument should align, but it doesn't. And here on the left, this is as we got closer. So we were making builds, tweaking the rotation, the position, the scale, painstaking, until we finally got it to perfectly match. And with Lightship, we do believe for our future iterations of site-specific installs, this process is going to be much easier and it's going to cut down a lot of dev hours for us. This is co-founder Micah giving us like a reference image for where David Ruggles' shoes should spawn, as well as us marking up certain screenshots to like get to the place we wanted it to be. So as you can see, we went through a lot to get here. The final challenge was stability. And here's a shot of when we realized this. It was a bright day, and it was so bright that I had to wear sunglasses indoors. And as you can see, these shadows are being cast where our pedestals are. So because of that, our program, in the beginning at least, it was really looking at the color and texture, and if there was a shadow cast on top of the wooden panel, it would see that as something different, just because of that shadow. It's so, it has so much contrast and it's so stark. So that was causing a lot of issues for us up front. One of the parts was improving the computer vision and the program itself, but the other part was making sure that the iPads would look at the monuments all day. So that, you know, once we did that, improved our program, it really helped, keeping them at this 90-degree angle. But you cannot account for human interaction. So what we found is that, you know, when in actual practice, some people would just, you know, put the iPad back down and it would just be looking at the floor. And there goes our stability completely. So the solution for that was the MoMA built us this kind of new stand to be able to keep the iPad tethered and secure while allowing for that 90-degree experience. So these three challenges, we put in a lot of time and effort to get those right for MoMA. And you know, since we want to do site-specific installs in the future, we're really excited about our partnership with Niantic because I think these three specific problems will be much easier to solve and move through in the future. And with the waste spots that Niantic already has, we hope to put site-specific locations in different parts of the country and, you know, grow that over time. So yeah, we are super, super excited, and the results from the R&D we've been doing with Lightship are also extremely exciting.
Yeah, I mean, just to end it off, I mean, we're being used in over 25 states right now, and I think as an app where you can just place it in your space, it's a little bit of a limitation. And so the waste spots really find ways to activate things really easily without sometimes even having to move from my house. And it's like, if we want to activate Columbus, I could do that really quickly, and then test that really quickly in real time. So it's really provides us a lot of the necessary capabilities that we need to do this also at scale. And I think that's the point where we're at. We're growing, and how do we do public installations, site-specific installations at scale? And so our hope is that these can be scattered across the country, and the communities are involved in the development and the creation of it, and then can to see it brought to life in these spaces where they normally don't feel sort of that connection to. And I think there's going to be a lot of interesting developments in how we're activating over the next year and a half, but we are going to be releasing the first portion of this public, the location-based version of KINFOK in around September, October. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And I think the final thing I'd say is that what's really important for us is not only to just activate these spaces, have the ability to learn about these histories and go deep, dive deep, which is something you can't do with physical installations, but also it's making the shared space, like the multiplayer aspect, I think we could use in a really interesting way to really make engaged experiences where people are really connected, and again, using technology as that bridge to bring communities together. So there's a lot of really exciting collaborative social experiences that we're looking forward to bringing out, so that the experience on site is super fun, super engaging, interactive, but also informative and artful and playful. So thank you, and that's all we have for now, but yeah, we'll be around.
Download